is Martha Manriquez. I'm the coordinator of the Graduate Student Center. Today's presenter is Dr. Luis Vega. He's a professor of psychology. He served as interim associate dean of the graduate and undergraduate studies for 2 years, so he's familiar with this competition. This is actually open to everyone, but we do these in preparation for our Grad Slam, which is the 3-minute research competition.
The title of this presentation is Grad Slam 201. The second presentation for the Grad Slam, which is a research competition for graduate students. Mostly it is open to graduate students who are doing their master's degree and doctoral degree too. Effective presentations, how to structure your arguments to present your research in 3 minutes, and it's aimed for a non-specialist audience. So meaning, you try to avoid jargon and try to present in a conversation you were having in an elevator, right? So typically people who are looking for a job, they tell you to practice you presenting yourself as if you were in the elevator, and by the time you come out of the elevator, people know what you are all about and what your skills are. So same thing for a research presentation here. In 3 minutes, and as you will find out about these presentations, they're very delicately put together and they look super amazing that people can convey sometimes up to 80 pages of research in 3 minutes. And you'd be surprised that we all have that ability to do that once you know some of the skills that go into it. So here's a little more of a formal introduction. I provided a title so that you can have an idea on what this presentation is about. So it's again, effective presentations through the sponsorship of the Graduate Student Center. And as Martha had mentioned, that office provides amazing assistance for graduate students. So if those of you who are watching this through video, don't hesitate to visit them because they're amazing at every step of the graduate school experience. What you see here then is that my title is going to be the minimalist approach to presentations, and meaning less is more, show me and have a story. So those are the 3 things that I will echo throughout this presentation. And this is in preparation for the 5th annual Grad Slam 3-minute research competition to take place on December 1st here at CSUB. And then there will be a first place, second place, and third place. And typically the first and second place are highly highlighted, and you can see the slides here on your screen. To have an idea of what I will be presenting today, I have 3 goals in mind, which is how to package your presentation, what to say in your presentation, and then applying the who, where, what, when to your story, so that you can deliver a very effective presentation that hopefully will win you points, and the people who win these competitions typically get money. So what you see here, less is more. And obviously, you already know that presenting a picture is worth 1,000 words. There is a common saying to that. And that will be the goal, because people who do these presentations will only have 1 slide. And then also what you say, you want to don't tell, but show people, what is the message. And as an example of that, as I did a little more research, is avoid description. Instead of saying, I'm stressed, you can add more vividness and more engagement so that people can remember. That's the main goal, to help people remember. So I'm sweating buckets, right? That's something that is said a little differently, but it's something that draws attention and people can imagine that. That's why you show them. And then finally, you want to tell people what you're all about, who you are, where, what, when your story takes place. Basically just means have or deliver a very interesting, passionate, fascinating story that people will remember. And there are a few tools here that to be provocative, be controversial, question, present a mystery where people will want to follow your conversation, present a juxtapose, a paradox of 2 contradictory findings, and so that people can make a comparison, engage through emotional appeal, which we call pathos in rhetoric. We can credit Aristotle to over 2,400 years ago when he wrote the book Rhetoric. So we'll be making reference to that. He also says that not only an emotional appeal, because the emotions are primal, they come first. Then obviously we use our mind, so which is our logic. And then you also want to use a thing called ethos, which means that you want to present yourself in a way that people will remember you. Maybe you're attractive already, which, if that is the case, there is a plus on your side. And if not, you can always try to, like in my case, I'm wearing a tie and I'm trying to look formal and authoritative, right? So those are tricks of the trade that you want to use. And again, like I said, some of these principles go back hundreds of years. So let me give an illustration of the first one, packaging your presentation, how you show people what you want to say, and then how to use rhetoric and appeal so that they'll remember you. So I want to show the first one here, how a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you see here, this picture is of this young girl in Vietnam who our planes dropped one of the napalm bombs, and this little girl was burned. And this she's technically without clothes, and it was very visual. And in the US, newspapers, television carry this picture, and it changed the tenor of the support for fighting in Vietnam. You know, at that time, things just turned around, and many Americans were just repulsed by what they saw. It was a turning point, and obviously this picture got a lot of for publicity, and this young woman was brought to the US. And then just, I think like 4 or 5 years ago, you can go to that link and you will learn more about it. She had her final skin draft 50 years later, you know, because of the way she was burned. So it's just a horrible thing, right? But you can see how sometimes nature, every year there is a competition of the best picture in the world. And sometimes you see like a whale, or you see things that you would not expect. But when you see the picture, it just grabs you, and it says so much. And so that's what is the intent for this competition, to have a graph that draws attention and people want to know more about it. So here's the second one. Here is show me, right? So this is an actual 3-minute competition by this woman here, a doctor now, Catherine Kurtz. She's going to explain, put herself in how is it that society puts so much pressure in women. And she's going to describe how every morning you get up, you do your teeth, and then you spend a lot of time putting a makeup and changing your appearance. And so she started this demonstrosity, deviant bodies, and how women are put under pressure to change themselves to look, very beautiful, but the process is just not genuine. It's something just for show. And she basically describes like all of the different things you have to do to your face, so you created a monster in a way, and why should that be pressure on women? So she does a beautiful job of showing you the process, not telling you, right? And just you're so engaged. So that's what we mean by show what your story is in a way that engages people and it has emotional appeal. You evoke the mind, and also it's about attraction. Don't we all want to be attractive, right? That's the charisma of the story. Then the next one is very surprising even to me. And this was an actual presentation, and the person didn't put anything on the presentation. It was just a blank screen like this. And this happened in 2014 in Australia. And if you want to know, this competition of 3 minutes presenting your research originated in Australia in, I don't know, 2007 or 8. You have to check on me. And now there is like 2,000 universities that do this competition, including our own university. But here is a person from that university who presented this. And then when you look at the people were very puzzled, like what's going on? How come there is nothing on the screen? And then she goes into it and she explains that there is what is called in Australia, what is called white privilege, right? That the people, the natives from there have been erased. You don't see them. You don't listen to them. You only see yourself. So that's why notice the title that she gave it. Now you see it, because we have this legacy of minorities not being present in our worldview. And for 3 minutes, she goes over this. And people, you see the audience, if you went to that link later on, and the audience are like, mesmerized. I mean, they just can't believe, and it's very educational. They come away like, my gosh, this is a very strong message. And with a blank screen, right? That's pretty amazing. So let's apply these principles to submissions that we had before in 2020 and 2021. And again, our goal is to look at the submissions and to analyze them on the basis of what I presented here. Have they packaged their presentation in a good way that less is more, or have they provided too much information? The way they say things, including your title, even how they put the title is going to be engaging or is going to be repetitive. So you will see how that makes a difference. And then you're able to get the gist of the presentation just on the basis of their title, and then how they present Are they using any of these techniques that I put for you here? Are they being provocative, controversial? Are they presenting a mystery, a paradox? Are they using emotion, logic, or charisma? So as we go through this, you will be able to see some of these things in action, okay? So here is the first one that I have for you. Know that if you're going to be in that competition, they're going to provide a PowerPoint slide. And that PowerPoint slide, you're going to do two things. One of them is the acknowledgments, where you have your faculty advisor, I believe your name and the title of your presentation. And the second one, you can just repeat it, and it'll be the actual data and information about your research, okay? So if you look at this one, look at the title here. Ms. Ba presented this, and you notice that there is jargon, right? So in this case, jargon cannot be avoided because in biology, you have actual technical terms that you have to use. To the degree that you're able to present this in a non-jargon way, it would be great, right? But you don't have to. So exploring, what else do you notice about this slide? So you notice that there is a misspelling, right? So you want to be careful that you proofread. Then obviously it's going to be the potential. And what does this mean? Most people may not know what it means. You can see the carrot pathogen, right? So that maybe the carrots are not going to be as good. And we'll go to the next slide. One of the nice things is that when you submit your presentation to us, we'll do, the judges will look at it and they'll provide feedback. So they'll give you that feedback, and then you'll come and do a presentation, and they'll give you a practice run, and they'll give you more feedback. But so notice then that if for this person, Mishbah, who presented this is the first submission, what advice would you give this person, right? On how can this be improved? Remember that you want people to infer the story, right? So show me what the story is. Don't tell me, because if you tell me, you can describe here forever. But is there a way for us, the audience, to look at the pictures, the slide, and to be able to know what it is about? What is it that they're trying to show us, right? If you look at this, you see like a fungicide, you see a field, then you see some type of microbes here, right? Pathogens, and then you see the two types of carrots. So one of them looks good, the other one appetizing, the other one doesn't look as appetizing, it even looks sick. So the feedback, if you had a chance to read it here, is there a way to simplify this that you can tell a story? Well, what does the biological control mean, right? So this is some of the feedback that was given to the student, and the student was really good. See, it reduced the number. So you can see there is how many pictures? There is like 6 pictures, right? So now we go down to only 4 pictures, and you see arrows. And technically, they don't want you to use a lot of words. Technically, if you can, without words, it's even better. But I've seen that a little lax, even at the national stage. But you don't want to have too many words, okay? Typically, you want to avoid that, but in this case, it was not avoidable. So here is what happens that if you use fungicides, which are chemicals, right? The carrots will survive, but they will not be as good. They will not be destroyed. So it's better to use a biological agent that occurs in the natural agent. And if that is the case, here's the pathogen. See how it controls it. It's not growing. It doesn't contaminate the whole thing. It keeps the pathogen separate, and then you get the nice carrots. Again, just by looking at the picture, you can see the story, right? And actually, you can see the pathogens here, right? The carrot looks sick. It's not as pretty. And that's bad because, it's not good for the agriculture here in town. Now we go to the next one. Here is another one. So Amy Ferris in biology, and she actually won. You can submit your presentations to different competitions. You can participate in the research competition to the Cal State. You can participate in other, and then she won. She didn't win this particular grad slam, but she won. Amy Ferris won another influential competition in biology. So do you notice anything, any feedback on the title? Riverine leader, so that in itself is interesting. What do we mean by riverine, right? So how bridges impact the distribution of anthropogenic leader and freshwater river. So if we go to the actual picture that she introduces, this one. Can you offer any feedback on how we can modify it, edit it, so it shows what the story is? Well, actually, it's very impressive, right? I don't know what you can see the water flow, and you see a lot of items, and then you see fewer items, and you here actually see the actual, right? And in fact, that's what she did. Who would have thought that these bridges actually help us clean water, right? And the litter, remove litter. So there was no feedback. She did a great job. She only had it was just pretty self-explanatory. Always credit your pictures unless you created them themselves, okay? Because that's the ethical thing. Make sure that you credit your pictures, okay? So there was no recommendations for her because she just did a good job with that. So here is a second one. Is there anything that you can tell me about the title? Need to modify it. So one thing that is nice about it, that is very interesting, right? It's something about the moon, and it's a meteorite, and it's very specific. We're talking about finding this meteorite in Western Africa, right? It's not something that we don't know when. So that could be further information, but let me show you the picture that was submitted for that. Here is the picture. So notice that it's very informative. It has a lot of information. It doesn't have any words, but it doesn't quite tell the story. You see the rock, the meteorite here, and you see the penny. So what feedback would you give? And we know it comes from the moon, right? But and it's an explosion. So can this be arranged so that you can show what the story is? And guess what? This person did a beautiful job. And you see it here. Isn't it better to have a better comparison through? That's what I mean by juxtaposing, right? You compare two things. That was one of the principles to show what the story is about. So if you put it in the hand, you get a good sense for how big this is. And then you can also see it was a fragment from a lunar, from a bigger piece. And you can see that they're trying to figure out that the chemical analysis, it comes from the center of this meteorite, right? Where it melted, that's why it looks like crystal-like. And you can see here the chemical compositions according to the analysis that they're using. So this one is a little more informative, right? I mean, it's still a little murky, not really knowing what to think. But then in the presentation, the presenter is going to travel through the slide and inform people. You know, here's the size we found there in Africa, and it comes from a piece like this. It broke off, and we're trying to figure out which part of the planet is coming from, right? And here's the chemical analysis. And supposedly the chemical analysis will allow them to know based on temperature and other things where it came from, right? So this person, again, did a great job. This one is fascinating in the sense that it's in psychology, and pretty much it's a STEM-driven competition, but you also find people from psychology. It can also be a STEM field too. So what do you see here? Examine the reflections of parent-child communication surrounding mental health, a qualitative dyadic exploration. So you may say, what does that mean, dyadic exploration, right? Is there a way to simplify that? And it just means relationship analysis. How is it the parent and child, right? How they interact. And let's look at the slide, and how could we make this show a better story? Do you have purposely, I'm saying, show a better story rather than tell a good story, right? Because when you tell, you're describing a lot, but if you show, people should be able to infer what you're trying to say. So here we see that all of these things, all of these elements here, labels, are trying to tell a story. Could we do it in a better way? Because they look too fragmented, right? And what feedback would you give? So the feedback was, yeah, it looks good. Is there an easier way to simplify this so that people can immediately see it? You're going to be impressed because the feedback that we provided is make it more coherent. So it really shows what this is about. And this is what the student presented. So what the student then revised did a word cloud. And you see family roles, stigmas, all of these things that you see here. And it's a whole bunch of words. People don't have to look at the words, but just looking at the picture. Remember, the picture is 1,000 words. They can see them. I think it's a mother, you know, the parent, and then you see the child. And all of these things are going to contribute to how they relate to each other and what type of development the child has, and all of the things in society that can have an influence. So this was very beautiful, right? So this is what the student presented. Now you may say, are there any tricks or anything on how I can present the story? So let's say that you notice that something is missing in this picture, right? So this could also be in a 37-page paper where it could be presented in only one slide. And I'm going to show you how you will go about making the story very interesting for people, which is going to be here. Here is the table of contents for a paper written by a student in a senior seminar class. And it's going to kind of use the same picture that you saw, right? The parent-child relationship, how that's very influential. And we saw how in the previous one, there was no father. It looked like a woman, right? It could have been a father with long hair. But the story that could be told in 3 minutes would have something effects of absent fathers on daughters' emotional, cognitive, and behavioral development, right? So the absence of a father is going to have an impact on daughters. And then notice what this person is doing. Is I'm just going to go over this briefly, and you will see how the story is being told in a way that captures the ABC, you know, the emotional, cognitive, and behavioral things. So if you really think about it, because we are humans, the first thing that we learn in life is fear. You know, the emotions are primal. And then after that, we use our mind. When you're born, you can be afraid, you can cry, you can be in anger. And then as you develop more, you use your mind, and later on, you're going to be doing things. So this is how this person framed this story. So you see that if emotions can build, destroy a young woman's potential in life. And notice the first one, building emotional support, armor in young women, right? So this means if the family unit is complete with the father, these women are going to have this armor. They're going to be ready to fight. However, if the father is not around, it's going to be a hallowing of emotional and emptiness, right? Of emotional shield. So women are going to be vulnerable. And then if that is the case, what do we do so women are not vulnerable? We can bridge the emotional chaos because, the father not being present, there are economic hardships and other things and pitfalls. So we need to build a bridge or something to overcome that. And then same thing for the mental state of a young woman. So you flourish if you have a father in the family. Young women will be astute and smart. And if the father is not there, there is a diminishing in acuity in young women. They're not going to have the same strength, to resist temptations and other things. And if that is the case, what can you expect to fortify the mental state of these women? And it means you have to make them super kids. You have to empower them in a way that is going to be difficult, but it can be done. And then obviously we transition to their actions. So you can optimize comportment, which means behavior of young women. If they have a father present in their lives. If they don't, then they're going to be suffering damaging actions like getting pregnant, doing drugs. But you want to prevent that. What are some of the things that could be unforeseen that you can prevent? So notice then that several elements that the picture is going to tell a story, right? So here the father is not present. So this system that we see here is going to be broken. And if that is the case, we still want to provide hope that you can do something about it. And we know that there are three elements that women will be, or young women are going to be affected in their mind, in their heart, and their actions, right? So that's what we mean by emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And we also, the story is being told through verbs, right? Building, hallowing, bridging. So that kind of action verbs, right? Rather than describing, you're explaining. So that's the other element of this presentation that you want to explain, not just describe, okay? So let's move to the next one. Are you ready for another one? What do you think is missing here? What advice would you give to Hannah? And Hannah, she actually won the competition here. She went to the state and she came close. She scored like third, but you also have PhD people there, right? So when she came and presented this to us, some of the feedback we provided was that maybe the title is too narrow, right? Maoism and the Chicano movement is not really precise and not very clear. And then, but nonetheless, it's very unique. And just know that if there is something that you like about your presentation, you don't have to change it, So in this case, she decided to stick with it. So here's the slide that she presented. So this is the first submission. And obviously you see Mao in China, the Communist Party. He was the father of Communist China. And then you see the Chicano movement in the US. So she's comparing, she was in history, that there are historical similarities in the two movements in China through communism and the Chicano movement in the US. So do you see how there is a power play? Why is it that the Chair Mao is at the top? And obviously in our country, we don't think very favorably, or we don't think highly of the communists in China, right? So obviously that's not going to, can we make it in a way that is more palatable to our audience here? So this is what she did. And then she also put a few words to show that this was a Chinese poster, which some people here in our country will say is propaganda. And then here is in the United States, the Chicano movement kind of went through a theater, cinema, right? So like the Bamba and many of the things you see plays, Teatro Campesino, which is a theater here in the Central Valley that tried to show the plight of farm workers and a lot of Chicanos, who face discrimination. And it's saying then her presentation was, how is it that a lot of the principles that Mao in his red book presented kind of apply, to people who are oppressed and how they want liberation. And to seek liberation, you have to fight. In the case of the communists, and in our country, you have to go and protest and seek change. So she told a very beautiful story. And so this, she's followed the advice to maybe make this in a way that is, you see them in parallel form rather than one on top and the other one. And then she was very kind because she shared her narrative. So what you see here, that took her 3 minutes to present, right? And then she was very tactical in how she presented, even the words that she chose, paper tiger. So you typically think of the tiger, the year of the tiger in China, right? And how the little red book. And you may think that this is not a good analogy, but let me show how it is. So she just did a beautiful job rehearsing and presenting, and she sounded like amazing, like an actress. And then what she also shared with us is here's the rubric or the competition judging criteria. You're going to be judged on comprehension and content, and then also on your engagement and communication. So it's not just your poster or your slide, but also how you present. That's going to make a big difference too. So this one is from biology too. Unraveling the first step in the estreptomyces, I don't know how to say, scabies pathology. How does the pathogen sense it is in the vicinity of a living root? It's a little lengthy and it has a lot of jargon, but the jargon I don't think can be avoided here, but the picture will clarify it a little better. So here we see the picture, okay? So notice that nowhere in the, is there an official name for potatoes? Maybe, see, I don't know. So living under a living root, and potatoes are a living root. So is this what that is? Any of you in biology, stromatizes? But I would have liked to see an actual potato there, right? Because we grow potatoes here. So this was the initial submission, and it looks pretty good, but it's not like doing a comparison. You know, a lot of these things, you will see the dead plant and the living plant, and then the abrasion, and we see the molecules. So with the feedback was, can you make it a little more explanatory, right? Not just descriptive, but explanatory, so that people will immediately know what's going on. And she did this, that what you can see, that the goal is to have a perfect potato, not a sick potato. And that if everything goes well, you're going to have a good living plant, and that will be the nice one. But if the plant is dead, you're not going to get anything, because the plant decomposes and then it's like fertilizer, right? And then you have to be careful that the plant's roots are in good shape and they're not thick, because if it is thick, it'll manifest in the biology of it, right? And the chemical basis of it, and this is what the end result will be. So it's very important that you keep the roots in a good state. A lot of the difficult things that you saw in the previous slide, or even in the title, even though she used a lot of these words in the title, when she had a nice picture, she could just point out to the picture, right? And then it made sense. So this is that, and this language means this. What do you like about this one? And this one was also an excellent one. So you notice that this person is doing two things. If you recall in one of the slides, on one of the things that you can do to tell your story, to show your story, is to use comparison, to ask a question, to be provocative. Notice what this person did. This person is asking the question, but is also providing the answer. That's very amazing, because you're daring. You know, you're asking the question and you're giving the answer. Will people stay to listen to what you have to say? And that is what happened here. So let's look at the picture and notice that he put the title. And remember, the goal is not to have any words if you can avoid it. So you see a forest and you see some of them are dying. Is there a way to actually illustrate? So that was the feedback. No words this time. And then you see it here. You see these roots that are very deep, and these roots are really good because the drought is not going to affect those bushes, all of the green ones. And then she told a great story. And then compared to these others that have more shallow roots, they're more likely to die. And you can immediately see that, right? So they just told the story in a very compelling way. And this is research that is relevant because, you know, we had a drought of 1,000 years. So she was just amazing, did a great job. And it seemed like it came easy to him. Here's another one. Are you ready for another one? So family nurse practitioner, so this is from nursing, benefits of napping among night shift workers, right? If you're a nurse and you have to do the grave shift, right, it's kind of difficult, right? Beneficial to take naps. But also let me say that from a rhetorical thing, whenever you hear benefits, people typically don't follow up. So like it's beneficial that you exercise, right? And people don't, it's beneficial that you save for retirement and people, but if you say, you're gonna be poor in retirement, if you lose all this money now, wasting it, people are more likely to listen, right? So sometimes you can use keywords like that, but in this case, she decided to keep benefits, and you'll see why in a little bit. But sometimes even one word can make a difference, okay? So let's look at the slide and see what you think. What will be one of the things that you notice in the slide? Could that be improved? You may say, yeah, it could be improved. So you notice that it's kind of busy, it's crowded, it's got a lot of numbers. You don't know where to put your eyes. What is the story that is being shown here? Huh? You have the kitten, you have this person who's driving in the wrong way. Right? Can this be simplified? And remember that one of the strategies that I offer is that less is more. Yeah, I'm sure you remember. So that's what this person did, right? So here's the revision. Notice that it's only got 3 pictures and the 2 graphs were combined into one. And then in this case, it was inevitable. You could, because it was a survey, and then this person needed to show the survey. And then you see only one animal, it's a dog now instead of a cat. So how you can benefit from napping, there is more productivity. Even people agree, right? People are in agreement that there are benefits. So you want to highlight these benefits for night workers and hopefully have less accidents. So they did a good job. And notice again how you want to credit your pictures and your research picture again, and then this is our results of our study. To recap, what are the 3 strategies to efficient presentations? More is less, so you want to simplify your slide as much as possible. Show rather than tell, so they should be able to infer the story or what you want to say from the slide that you have. Active verbs, have a very interesting story, very good. Something that is compelling. So have the story should be something that you're passionate about, interesting, so that people want to see that. So the main thing is that you want people to remember, to rebrand, to recall, to reconfigure, to reflect, to rejoice, to be riveted, to recommend, to relearn, to realize. See, a lot of R's to create great impact so that they remember. Then what I also did is that I put a link here at the very bottom. If you click on that when you get the slides, it'll take you to Australia. And they have several slides where they have recommendations on how you can go about it. And they're like they've been doing it for many years. They have a lot of useful resources. So there is a competitor guide. And then what I put here, let me see if I still have it, is that you want to project. And next week, that's what is going to happen. So you may be a little kitten, but you're the lion, a roaring lion who's going to make a big impact. This is from the New York Times last week, a story in the New York Times, and the artist here is Maria Jesus Contreras. So you can also make good money, right? It's hard work, and typically you will pay for these pictures, but I'm using it just I'm giving her credit. So present with confidence. Let me show you some notes that I took from another one. I attended a workshop where I learned a lot. And let's see if we can highlight a few things that could be to your benefit. So you can see other slides people have used. Again, like I said, you can compete in other places. Notice this person here. Your eyes, you want to be looking at the audience. And then this is from a nurse, I believe, eye trackers. She's explaining. And notice how it has a lot of pictures, right? But she's comparing one and the other. And then in 3 minutes, that's too much information. But the nice thing is that she's doing a comparison, just like I mentioned in my slides, remember? I mentioned in the slides. So you be provocative, controversial question, present a story, juxtapose a paradox, comparison. And you actually see it in this one. And a lot of this that you are going to see in a little bit here, these are presentations that were in the East Coast and they won first place, okay? So they won still, even though like in this case, it looks a little cluttered, but this person won. Then we go to the other one. Here's another presentation. Notice that you have a choice how far away from the camera you stay. I think in your case, you may be presenting in person. But again, notice here it has a few words, but it's a minimalist, only 3 pictures, and you see the flow of information. Here is the one that you saw, right? Here is another one, no pictures. This is from psychology. Rats and how you can bonding and hormones, right? So I use some of my notes here, and it just was the picture. And notice this person here. So you do your best not to really smile, but maybe you can ask that question next week from Kelly Obano, who is going to present, because she has a lot of great tips, even how you stand and if you tilt your shoulders left and right, what words you use. So next week, make sure to attend because it'll be outstanding. She's really good. Notice how, do you see the big difference between the first person here and the next person here? Notice how this person is using their hands, right? They're a little far away, and you can see they're looking at the camera. And then this was that was the slide, just this little computer chip, right? And the person was able to present for 3 minutes to engage people on the basis of this. That's impressive. You got to be a great speaker to do that. Now, here's another one. This person actually created she drew the picture, right? And they had to do with traffic, how to optimize things. I thought she did a great job too. She had won in her own competition. So it's permissible that you can draw your own thing. Here's another one, and you see how they show direction and how you're going to be moving. So that's permissible too if you have to use arrows instead of words. The corn, again, notice that it's even simpler than the carrot one, right? Okay, here is another one. And notice how this person has a nice suit, so dress nice. use the proper body language. And then this one is got too many things, right? So that would be a criticism. I think he could have simplified this, but he's still one. So people provided feedback. And one thing I can say that they say you have to engage people, you have to practice, make sure that you're speaking non-jargon. So I have attended a lot of these training workshops. You will be excellent. The people who do these presentations, it's just unbelievable. They get better. You know, the slides, the pictures they show, it's just impressive. It pushes you. So do all of the training, take the feedback that you get to heart, and then practice. And then I to be honest, I prefer that it be in person, because you're more limited when you do it on Zoom. You only have so much to work with. You know, you only have one dimension. But when you do in person, you know, you have to figure out what to do with your hands. So rehearse. I will even encourage you to go and acting pointers, right, on how to stand and how to talk to people. And it's people from STEM. We have people from English, right? We have had people from history, Spanish. Have we had anyone from Spanish, Marta? I think you should be the first one to do the Spanish.
We have someone here from the Spanish program, Jimena Benitez.
Oh, are you planning to apply? I hope you apply, Jimena. That would be great. It'd be really good if you could do one.
This is good for anything, because we actually have a team presentation on Tuesday for our Spanish class. So
I mean, the rules are not that complicated. Just, you know, less is more, and show what the story is, and then use the strategies of the story. You know, that people get the story in a comprehensive way that they will remember. The who, what, where, and when, who, where, what, and when, right? They should be able to answer those questions.